Well, here's a scenario. I have put in $150,000. I have literally actually done that with my
Yep.
startups.
Yeah.
Toiled away, made it happen. It's my baby. When do I get that money back?
As soon as never. And it's so frustrating. I mean, you've done it, I've done it. We put money in with this expectation that it's almost like debt to ourselves, in that future folks will recognize that debt, right? Because clearly we put that money in. And if someone else gave us $150,000, the intent would be to pay them back. So why the hell don't we get paid back? Like, what just happened here? And talk about an expensive lesson. Dude, once that money goes in, you will never see it again. You will never get it back. It is gone. You're not even allowed to talk about it. It's so spent. What was your experience?
I just chalked it up to, all right, this is what it's taken to get me here to build this.
Yeah.
But I know when you're married and you've got overhead, cost of opportunity is high, you are sitting there and that is gnawing away at you in the middle of the night.
Of course. Yeah. And here's the thing. Again, you put it in with good faith. And let's face it, you also had to. You're the only person that was going to put in any kind of money, right? But you put it in with good faith and you think about it like an investment, like anything else. When you buy a house and you put a down payment down, right? Let's say you put 20% down, you expect that equity to be accessible at some point when you sell the house, etc. Now, technically, you did get equity in the company, right? If you founded it, right? So there is something that you hope to extract at a future value. What we're missing is we believe that future investors will look at the dollar value that we put in and look at that as a debt that the company owes back to you. And technically you could put it on the books. You could put it as a liability. You could even write a note to yourself to say that this must be paid by this time. Lots of luck collected on that note. I'd love to be in the room, Ed, when you walk in and say, "Hey guys, time to pay that note we've been talking about." And they're like, "Wait, what? You want us to write you a check for $150,000?" Sure do. That money is good. I would love to see the person that got that check. I want to take notes from them.
I can see people saying, "But here's my minute books, and there's an I owe me in it right here." Okay, but I will make this totally realistic for the founders listening. This actually happened to me where I was talking to an investor and I said, look at all the expenses that I have chunked in to get to this point in time. And I had the receipts and I had everything logged underneath there, thinking that investors would at least acknowledge, maybe for future stock bonuses, everything. And yes, like you said, you could do it. Like it actually could be on the books, but the investor just looked at me and was like, yeah, that's not going to happen. What was I going to do? What was I going to do?
And their answer, really justifiably so, and this is weird because I never defend the investors, is you did get paid. It's called your equity, right? Like that's how you got your equity. That's how you got us as investors. That's how you got this thing here. That was your investment. But again, no one ever tells you that. It's not in the manual. Right. So when we put that money in and we expect maybe we'll get it back. And by the way, a conversation I often see with this is a conversation with your spouse. If I go to my wife and I say, hey, I'm going to put $150,000 of our college savings for our kids or our nest egg or the money we're going to otherwise put toward a house. And my wife's like, yeah, okay, cool. And I'm like, but, once this thing gets going, we'll pull it out and pay it back and go get the house, cover the kids' college, whatever. And then I get this rude awakening that money ain't coming back, right? That's a tough conversation to have at home.
But let's talk about how investors would see that.
Sure.
Imagine you're an investor and you come into a startup and they basically say, yeah, I put in all this personal money and I am like tapped out. How do investors see that? What's a pathway out?
Yeah. So from an investor standpoint, I'm going to look at any money that you've put in prior to this as your investment. In the same way as an investor, I put in my money for my equity. That's the money you put in for your equity. Now, do some people get equity without ever coming out of pocket? Of course, all the time. And they're able to attract investors without having put that money in. But what I'm saying is, either way, as an investor, I look at sunk cost as sunk cost. And if I'm calling it what it is, It's your problem, not mine. The challenge for us as founders, when we try to go to that next level, that next group of investors, and we say, hey, we've got essentially an IOU, it's we just don't understand how the game is played. And the cool thing, and I'm going to take this a step further, and the cool thing about being an investor is you kind of don't need to care about what happened to the last guy, right? Ergo the down round. If I'm the next round of investors, let's talk about that. I'm the next round of investors. So investor group A put in the seed or pre-seed money. Investor group B comes in with the seed round, and investor group A is like, hey, we put in $500,000, but a company didn't get that far. Investor group B is like, don't care. There's no IOU, right? I mean, there might be an version of convertible debt, but they'll come in and say, hey, if you want my $1 million, everything that was paid up until now is worth zero, and we're restarting. It's the golden rule. She with the gold rules. Whoever currently has the check currently sets the terms. And that's kind of the way the game is played.
I'll share from personal experience as well. Sitting on the side of the investors table, I've had founders come to me and they've said, I put in so much money into this and I'm owed this money. So this is how I'm going to use the funds.
Yeah.
And I gently explain to them, okay, first off, I appreciate that you put in that money.
Yeah,
I at least acknowledge it.
Yep.
Shows how committed they are. But second, I say, look at your investment as you've invested in the company to even get me to the table so that I'll write you a check at a better valuation than if you were at nothing. So that's what founders need to think of, right?
Yep.
And then second is I've had situations where they said, I put in all this money and I need this investment, but I'm owed all this. And I say, great. That means it's still worth nothing. Like getting you to this point where you need my investment to somehow rescue you, it still means your company's worth nothing. So if I'm going to put in money, why would I want to acknowledge a deeper hole than we're already looking at right now? Correct.
Every time there's another round of funding, everything gets reset. Well, whatever was owed previous, no one cares. Well, we've talked about investors paying me back, but what about back pay? What if I sacrifice 3 years worth of salary? When do I get paid back? And we could talk about VC funded companies, how 7 years in, the founder is still yet to get a market salary.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's no one gives a shit what you got paid in the market. None of this stuff matters.